You're listening to Weird and Dead, the paleontology podcast that tells evolution's most embarrassing and bizarre stories. I'm Megan Wetherill.
And I'm Amy Atwater, and we're two living scientists who are weirdly excited about dead things. This episode is all things urine fossils. Urine that left a mark on the rocks, urine that became the rocks, and the rocks that formed in urine.
We'll talk about the internet's fascination with ostrich urination, and Amy defends the slurricious reason she was Googling, do crocodiles pee?
Like always, our podcast covers some disgusting stuff, especially in this urine-soaked episode. Please pay attention to the content warnings in the description. This podcast is not for kids, but my new book is. Check it out, please. I mean, this is so fun. I love this entire journey. And it's like, okay, we've done lemurs. We've done butt stuff. We've done a lot of butt stuff. We've done more butt stuff. And today we were like, let's do pee stuff. Let's do pee hole things. And that we were like, well, I think largely our topic got started because of what you're going to talk about today, which is the phenomenon that is so cool to me and have experience with just because of life in the desert. But then it got us thinking of, hey, are there like legit fossil urine specimens? And that's what took us on this route and left me Googling, do crocodiles pee? and...
Do crocodiles
and looking up
Jesus.
Yes. It got really bad today. It got real rough today.
I feel like we should point out that you are sick and I have a concussion, which I think will make this episode probably better at least and more incoherent. So
but no one has to see how poorly written and spelled our notes are. Exactly. So there's that. There's that small glimmer of hope. It turns out I don't know a lot about peeing in other animals, and I'm incredibly mammal-centric. Like, I had to realize today that not all reptiles have liquid pee, even though I've, like, had a snake, and I know that it was, like, a slurry situation of kind of
like
both.
A milkshake sort of.
All the but it was like they're disgusting. It's disgusting, and I'm still not quite sure and understand like which ones do and which ones don't. I apologize, I didn't have time to like go into the details. I do know that a Komodo dragon, as we were just saying, apparently just like shits and pisses cocaine, like white powdery substances.
Awesome.
Because they consume so much bone that they have to deal with all the extra calcium.
So Komodo shit
like
cocaine
pissing bone.
Or they piss cocaine bone. And then my job today is to talk about how rats piss poison that becomes rocks.
Oh gosh. Season 3, Unhinged to begins. I have to pee all the time, so this is just too real in a lot of ways. And I got to go down some fun rabbit holes. So the first one that I was like, hey, are there fossil peas? And the first paper that came up is this paper about late Jurassic site in Brazil that claims to have a urolite.
Ooh.
And a urolite would be like a trace fossil of urine splatter, if you will, like evidence of liquid waste elimination. Okay. It was first used in like the 1960s to explain the apatite and calcite byproduct produced by some reptiles in the Cretaceous that they found in Germany. But I couldn't read the paper because it was all in German. And you'd think that maybe I'd try to learn German by now.
ChatGPT
but I'm not going to do that.
Translate a German paper for you.
Oh my God, that's a really good idea.
It wrote a whole plugin for me for Audacity to export clip by clip. So I feel like maybe
that's hot.
Maybe it could read and translate a German paper. It probably wouldn't be any less accurate than you trying to translate it yourself.
A lot of the science words are still science words because science speaks all languages. We're all whatever. Anyway, so supposedly this term was used to describe more of the non-liquid parts of urine in Cretaceous reptiles. But now this paper is using it to describe like a trace fossil of splatter, essentially. Pee splatter that they're saying because of the sheer size of it has to be from a dinosaur given the time. So it's kind of like they would have been the most likely, which I have some questions about that. But why not? Why not?
For a really long time.
Well, I guess.
What if someone was super
I think
drunk
their point,
and they did like a whole Austin Power level piss? I don't think it has to be a dinosaur. I think it could be someone with kidney problems.
Or a pregnant lady. Or a fucking pregnant woman. Yeah. Okay? I peed every 45 minutes. It was
volume, as I understand it. But you're the expert.
Well, and this is their point, is that it needed to have come from a certain height to be able to produce the scouring that it achieved on the sediment, on this sand. That if you were a small organism, even with a chooch and bladder, you wouldn't necessarily be able to.
It's a necessity. Sorry. Also, the combination of science terms and chooch is just great.
Oh my God, I just snorted. Oh. I just don't. My point is, I don't think that they would have been far enough from the ground and big enough to have the volume that they claim. So I will say that this paper came out in the ostrich pissing images really sold it for me.
Right, I haven't pulled up your
this
images.
Came out in.
Sorry.
This came up in, I haven't shared my images.
I mean, I see a file labeled Amy's urine photos, good. So I feel like I could probably guess.
No, don't. That's something else. All right.
Okay, I'm in urine now.
Back to science. Back to science. We are talking about this 2004 paper claiming to have a dinosaur urolite from Brazil. And essentially it's like where the pee stream hit and the displacement of sediment, or they say like kind of like carved out, as opposed to an impression, like a track, which would compress it, the sediment, not literally remove the sediment. Okay. So there's an element of that scouring again that they're claiming is coming from a, direct large source of quick stream of water in a very small area. Are you looking at it?
No, just the idea that these people are like studying the physics of piss is just.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they're like literally. These are the two.
Okay. So the top two, I'm assuming, are the fossil, and the bottom. Two?
So actually A, B, and C are fossils, and D is the experiment, which let me read to you the experiment that they took 2 liters of water, were poured from 80 centimeter height into a sloped area of loose sand, and that's picture D. That's their simulation of a dinosaur pissing on loose sand.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead.
I'm like, why didn't you get out and piss?
Yeah.
I mean, if this does fossilize, I pee everywhere when I'm outside. I hope that this is something I've left behind.
I just so looking
it's usually
at
flooded
these
my shoe.
Fossils, again, and this is the case with I think almost all trace fossils for me. If I saw this in the wild, would just think, oh, someone hit a rock with a hammer really hard because there's a big dent in it. At no point in my life would I look at that and be like, that's piss. Like I can see looking at their experimental piss fossil why they say that, but like at the same time, I will never recognize a pee fossil. Like I know that about myself. I will never see one in the field and know that is not just a weird rock. Like hands down.
They write, so this area there's a lot of fossils in the area. I think there's quite a few coprolites. Like, I think part of it is like the association and how, again, when you have a coprolite and you're a reptile and you got one hole, and oftentimes, again, I literally found in a scientific paper it described as a slurry. So that is why I'm going to continue to use that phrase.
Oh yeah, that's why.
But a slurry of urine and feces. So I think that there's some of that reasoning going on too, but they describe it. Okay, so for everyone, I'll post a picture, but I always forget. It is, it does look like Megan said, like they split a rock and like a hammer took a chunk out of the middle and it maybe has a little bit of a concentric vibe to it. Yeah. But like, I would never pause to look at that ever at all.
No.
Ever. Actually, no. Nope. Okay, so what they write is this structure is found in the sedimentary rocks associated with dinosaur fossils. So the sediment has been removed, and the sand was removed by a fluidization formed by a gravitational stream of 34 centimeters in length, and that they have this concave negative relief, though one of them has a positive relief, and inner concentric delineations with corresponding sedimentary layers that work with like the surrounding rock. Like it got carved out and you're kind of got a little window into your fellow layers up in there. So then they did their very expensive experiment of taking 2 liters of water and spraying it on the ground from 80 centimeters.
How is that valid, Amy, when we're describing this as a slurry? Should they not have been dumping a milkshake?
But their point is that so then they go into the ostriches. So a lot of the comparative thing, like maybe it's a slurry, but their point is that maybe it's more like an ostrich, which, okay, let me see if I can get through this. I'm not going to be able to pronounce any of this. Okay, ostriches have a uridoum, where the urine is stored, which then exits through the cloaca, and they have a coprodenum that stores solid waste. So they can, even though that's the one cloaca, again, they can have a strong liquid urine flow that is separate from the butthole spraying of waste, solid waste. And then they post, you can scroll to their next image, which is this experiment.
Oh my God.
Please describe what you see.
Okay. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to pull it in front of my face so I can be looking directly at the microscope or microphone for this one. I am seeing, all I can think of, is just what it would feel like to be a Komodo dragon pissing sand. But also, in the moments where I'm not thinking about that, just the idea that someone sat there and watched explicitly to catch ostrich piss. So this ostrich,
according to YouTube, that happens a lot. So I don't know why else people are doing this.
That people watch piss.
Yeah, or like literally just a lot of there was no short amount of sources for this one.
Okay. All right. So we've got an ABC panel of a frankly kind of elongated looking ostrich that is like, I feel like usually I kind of assume that they're a little squatter than that, but standing in a barnyard with just a thick stream. That trickles
healthy.
Off. Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's healthy. I mean, I guess, sure. Would not be for us.
No.
It looks like a stick in consistency. Like I know
it's
that's
not
just
clear. You can tell, even though the picture is black and white, you can tell it's not clear.
Yeah, I think it's black and white for our sanity. We don't want to know what color that actually is. Okay. And then it forms a little puddle on the ground. Great.
So their point is that if dinosaurs had a system like an ostrich and not like a Komodo dragon, which they should hypothetically, because of phylogenetics, have a system more like a bird than something like a lizard, like a Komodo dragon, which is why I was going into like crocodile pee too, which they seem to do the slurry, but they technically have the capacity to do either. But it was this, did I write down the quote on this? It was really funny. While it has been reported that urine and feces are stored and can be excreted separately from a cloaca in a crocodiliform, our experience is that saltwater crocodiles in the present study excreted a slurry of combined feces and urine. I wasn't kidding.
So if you ever read a meta-analysis of papers, which is an analysis of a whole bunch of papers to kind of come up with what everybody is saying, a lot more common in like health science than it is in paleontology, but they have to say things like, here are the Google Scholar search terms that I use. Here are X, Y, and Z terms. Here's how long I looked. Here's how many pages I went through. I want to see that sort of information. I want to know how many saltwater crocodiles you watched go to the bathroom. And I want to know how long you waited before you gave up. Like, are we doing some sort of like, are you recording them and then you're going through footage with like fast forward? Yeah, there's a lot.
They
more
probably
for this to be replicable. you know?
They probably covered that. I didn't read the paper, so it's fine. I mean, I skimmed it well enough, and then I got to slurry, was totally amused, laughed to myself for 5 minutes, probably got up for a LaCroix, and never went back to that paper ever again, because that's my life these days, and that's fine. That's how it goes.
Fair enough.
So we don't entirely know for sure. We don't really know if it's a dinosaur. There were other animals that existed in the Mesozoic. I love that people kind of like to pretend there weren't. So, I mean, do I buy it's a urine spray? I mean, I want it to be true. I love a world where we have preserved urine fossils.
Me too.
I will say that there's been another site that's been claimed to also have a scour from a sauropod pissing, and it's here in Colorado at the Purgatory site that I've still not been to, famous track site. And there's this like strange bathtub-sized depression that everyone's been like, I wonder what this is. And finally a student was like, it's from a sauropod pissing 1,500 liters of a full bladder. And I was just like, okay, they never published it. So it's just an abstract. And even Martin Lockley was skeptical on that one. And I don't buy half of what he wrote. So it's fun to get curious. That's like what the quote was this is an imaginative explanation, but it's just like, it's really, and of course, as I talk to my geologist husband about this, as his eyes get stuck in the back of his head from rolling his eyes so hard at again, this folly of the paleontologists, assuming that every structure found in geologic layers can be explained by some biogenetic process. And maybe it is, maybe it wasn't. I wasn't there, so I don't know. So tell me about some fucking poison piss, please. Golden shower hour all over me prehistorically.
Are you looking for the best possible dinosaur or fossil-related book for a kid in your life? Amy wrote one. It's got these amazing touchable illustrations, and while it is completely child-friendly, some of our favorite not-so-appropriate animals are hidden throughout. Get your copy of The Fossil Keeper's Treasure today, wherever you buy books.
Looking for fresh fashion with a science twist? Be sure to check out Geopetal Fabric, Megan's clothing company. These geek chic designs look fantastic and make for excellent conversation starters. Plus, get 10% off using code WEIRDANDDEAD. Head on over to geopetalfabric.com now.
It's going to be a little less golden. It's going to be a little bit more brown and black and glossy, I'm afraid. All right, so we're going to talk about primarily pack rat piss, because pack rat piss, we know how they piss. They're around. You can watch them if you want to.
They're still here.
They're still here, but their piss.
Wonder if I could find that video.
Probably. The internet is a weird place these days. Pack rat piss is a expanding field of science with unlimited potential. You can do amazing things by studying pack rat piss, because pack rat piss is also called amber rat or rat doby. Rat doby is one of my favorites as well.
I like that.
Because it's hard as hell. It's unbelievably hard. Every paper that I read on it had to describe, oh yes, I had to chisel it out with a rock hammer, or oh, I had to take a Dremel with a diamond drill bit in order to take a sample.
The power of piss. Wow.
Yes. So
stand in admiration.
And rodents, kind of in general, they have some somewhat toxic piss, but mostly the studies have been on pack rats, because pack rats they don't just pee. They pee in one spot, and they pee on an accumulation of what they probably think is treasure and what most people would think is garbage and what scientists also
or your items,
treasure.
Your personal belongings.
Yes.
You're just all of your shit on your camping trip and in your cabin. Especially shiny things, I hear. Yeah.
Yeah. So pack rats aren't
socks, apparently.
Out pissing just kind of everywhere. They are concentrating that in what is known as their midden. So
a trough. Right, midden.
I mean, a midden is it's garbage. That's what the word midden means. So if you're studying middens archaeologically, you're usually talking about trash piles. but garbage
that's so
is, of course,
rude.
I know. It's in the eye of the beholder. You know?
We call your home garbage.
Okay, but you piss and shit all over it. So I don't know. Maybe that's on the pack rat, you know?
Right. Fair, but like, I mean, if it's to one's culture, who am I to judge?
I'll tell the pack rats that you are on their side.
Just not in my house. Get out.
So a rodent midden is somewhat different from like an archaeological midden because rodents accumulate piles of bullshit for a variety of reasons. Some of them are building actual nests, so they will have like their whole lives lived out in their weird little garbage pile. Some of them are accumulating things specifically to eat. So like a pika will accumulate a midden of plants on top of its little home that it eats throughout the winter. So its midden is a little bit different than a pack rat midden.
It's like all of those pigs in their different houses that the big wolf. Oh my God, the pack rats were like, blow this fucking house down. Try me. Like, try me. Evolutionary arms race. Bitch, bow down. Be humble. Right, sorry.
Lots and lots of rodents do build middens, but literally not all of them piss on garbage. Their own middens to create concrete. So the pack rat is the brick house pig.
Very effective. Very efficient.
It is.
Yeah. Brick house pig.
How long do you think a pack rat midden can last without decomposing?
So one of my experiences with pack rat middens is that I gave tours at Arches when I worked there, and on the Fiery Furnace, one of my stops, my whole tour was about the superheroes of the Fiery Furnace, and it was all about different cool shit and animals, and it ended with, and you, who's gonna protect it. But the midway stop was the pack rat midden stop. So I'm sure I knew this number at one point in time because my whole gag was like, how old do you think it could be? And they were all like, 200 years. And I was like, 50,000 years. So I'm going to go with 50,000 years.
Yeah, the answer is we don't know because 50,000 years is beyond the limit of radiocarbon dating. So they can get up into 45, 50,000, which means they could also be 100,000. They could be 200,000. They could be 300,000. Because pack rat piss, in addition to like coating everything and turning it into concrete, it also like it desiccates things a little bit, very similar to actual amber. Yeah. So it full on preserves the entire nest, which is why scientists get really excited about pack rat middens because they are little time capsules that can do things like, first off, pack rats are often preserving things in desert environments, which deserts are great at preserving bone. They're not very good at preserving plants because plants kind of dissolve in that level of alkalinity. So it's hard to find paleontological records of plant life in deserts because they decompose unless they have been picked up by a pack rat and tossed into their nest and pissed on. So they basically take the place of like pollen analysis.
It just is so great. It's just like such a humiliating thing. And here it is being such an incredible tool. Like that's why the world is amazing.
Oh, it gets better.
I mean, they're really into water sports. I am picking up on that.
They are. And so pack rat urine, it's composed of calcite, oxalate, calcium carbonate, silicates, something called styruvate, and wetolite. And it's basically a whole bunch of brown minerals, and it is poison. Oxalate is one of the bigger components, and oxalate is a poison that doesn't really impact rodents, but it's from like prickly pear. So they're one of the few things that can really eat prickly pear without having calcium problems.
That was my question is how are they generating all of this shit to be in their urine? I'm sorry, all of this urine to be in their urine. It's not shit. That's their houses.
All of
That's
these
their middens.
Poisons. Well, pack rats, in addition to being able to pass oxalate, which can then, solidify their piss, they can also eat creosote resin. They can eat oak tannins, and they can eat juniper terpenes. So they literally are garbage dumps themselves, and they can eat all of these poisonous things. So in addition to just being coated in super hard pack rat piss, a lot of that stuff is also poisonous to other animals.
It's like bioaccumulated.
Yes. So even if you were really motivated for whatever reason to go digging around in a pack rat nest, it's poison and hard. Except, Amy, for when it's not hard. Because it turns out if you get it wet, it gets sticky and it turns into a fucking glue trap, just like amber. So in addition to preserving plants, which are probably put there by the pack rat as part of their midden, it also preserves lots of bones of small reptiles and amphibians, some of which might have actually been collected by the pack rat. I guess the pack rats sometimes were like little paleontologists. They did like little bones to add to their pile. But sometimes it's because those things got literally stuck. So like there's bugs that have been found.
Right. It's like a dam.
Yeah.
Right. It's creating this literal net of urine, a urine net. Imagine guys getting stuck in a sticky net made of piss of rats.
Yeah. So like these are incredible repositories of small animals, which can often be kind of hard to find. And they are so well preserved that in, I think, 2021, someone did an ancient DNA study on a beetle and found that it still had enough DNA for them to realize it was a darkling beetle, which is less impressive when you realize it was a whole darkling beetle. So they could tell from looking at it that it was a darkling beetle. But they don't really represent it that way in their scientific paper.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Oh my God. What
is it? I'll close my eyes. Run the DNA analysis.
Don't look. We can't be biased. Don't look at it. Don't even look at it.
Yeah, so they've done ancient DNA on things in pack rat piss. And I keep saying pack rat because pack rat is the most common, but rock hyraxes in Africa also do this. So
wait, but they're not rodents. I mean, they're completely rodents, different.
But they're like rodent adjacent.
But that's interesting.
Visually.
But like, it's interesting that it's like, right, they fill a similar niche, but like,
I guess
they're
really
nowhere. They're no fucking near related to each other. Yeah, they're Afrotheres.
Yeah.
So they're fucking weird. And so it's just like, that's curious to see convergence with that. Yeah.
If you don't know what a rock hyrax looks like, imagine kind of a rabbit with like weirdly visible toes that is somehow related to an elephant.
Yeah.
That's what those are. So rock hyraxes also will do stuff like this, which is great because pack rats don't live in Africa. So we can use rock hyraxes. And then porcupines in North America will also do this. So you can sometimes use porcupines. They're not as, I think, consistent about the solidifying piss. So
fucking lazy assholes. But all they're doing is gnawing on the bottom of my cabin. Like I hate you.
And because they're collecting all of this, like they're collecting bones, they're collecting sticks, they are also pooping out plant products. All of those things have carbon in them. So you can do radiocarbon dating on these rodent nests, which I have also done. So my first experience with amber rat was at the Paisley Caves, which is an archaeological site with some paleontology there too. And that does mean that I am muddling the waters by kind of being both an archaeologist and a paleontologist. Sorry, guys. And my job has always just been, can you do the math to tell us how old the dirt is? So people will give me all of these radiocarbon dates. And when we were first doing it, I was really concerned about the pack rat middens, because when you go to these caves, you can see pack rat middens and they're up on the side of the cave. Like they're very clearly out of time compared to the floor of the cave. But weirdly, they actually turned out to be very, very stable. So I think that the pack rat middens that we've been sampling in Paisley Caves are the ones that are the pack rats that were too lazy to climb, like that they were digging kind of down and into the sidewalls. But they've been a really great repository for radiocarbon dates. So yeah, I'm a pack rat person, I guess. I deal with pack rat piss.
You deal with pack rat piss. I think that you should just change your tagline on everything to just be. Will you be upset if I change the name of my personal Instagram account to Amber Rat Amy?
No, you can describe yourself however you want.
Excellent.
I will not be a geopedal piss.
Pack rat piss. Pack rat piss paleontologist. The pack rat piss. That's a good handle. Somebody, not me, but someone out there. And with the age thing, because that's just in that window of awful time where it's between our different tools to be able to really. But aren't there up and coming geo time methods to be able to get? Yeah,
there's a lot of, I never remember the set of letters. I've used these things all the time. It's like ILSR, ISL. I have a concussion, so I'm not going to remember it correctly regardless. But there's ones where you have to like, I've never actually gone out and collected these, but from my understanding, you go out in the dead of night and you take a big tube and you shove it into the dirt because you have to collect the dirt grains without them seeing the light, because you can tell the last time that they saw a light. So there's those.
Oh, right.
Which
yes,
are
the ones who are like
more popular. Yeah.
Shh,
yeah.
Don't disrupt
I do think
the
you have to
light.
be quiet.
Yes.
I think that might be.
Isn't that all the cosmogenic stuff? But... Yeah. Yes. They're like very demure, very mindful.
Indeed.
It's like so late on that. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, but that's exciting. Also, haven't we discussed, I know it's not necessarily fossilized, but I feel like you, me, and Carrie are number one fan. That's right, David. Carrie's still number one. You're equal. You guys are number one. Didn't we have a whole discussion on kangaroo rats and how they piss like little crystals? How they're just like so water efficient that they just like, they're just peep, peep.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah, they also piss. They piss diamonds. Yeah. God.
Yeah.
Now I remember. I just remember thinking that was so painful every time that I would talk about it. Like it's like how men talking about getting kicked in the balls. I would just kind of wince every time that I thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's basically like bladder stones 24/7, right? Like they must have a high pain tolerance.
I was going to say, I wasn't necessarily meaning that to be a segue, because if we've got, more Amber Rat, but it's related. It's related.
Do you think that that's evolutionarily why they started retaining their piss, is because it started hurting so bad to go pee that they just kind of stopped peeing and then they just adapted to take out more liquid? Someone look into that.
Definitely. It was actually, I think it's more likely that they were like, wow, look how beautiful these crystals are. I'm going to decorate my house with them. Yay. I'm an independent woman. I can decorate my own house with my own pee crystals. Well,
speaking of piss diamonds.
Oh, excellent. Look at this. Yes. Only on your favorite podcast.
So I have used rat middens to do radiometric dating, but some people wanted to know if you could just straight up do analysis on the piss. So there's a pretty recent master's thesis on someone whose master's thesis was taking pack rat hardened piss, putting it in a hot bath of acid, drying it, superheating it to get CO2 gas, converting that CO2 gas to graphite, and then looking at it under a mass spectrometer because you could do isotopic analyses on the carbon.
Wow.
It's a long process.
I was going to say, no time to introduce any errors and any of that. But I mean, a lot of science is a lot of
from
trusting.
Rock to acid to dust to gas to rock again. That's the process.
That's the dream. That's the.
I forgot to tell you the coolest thing that has ever been found in pack rat middens. Well, thus far.
Oh my God. Yeah. Besides my future body.
Yeah. Well, beside your future body and a beetle that they just pretended they didn't know what it was. They found a chunk of sloth poop in a pack rat bin, and they ran a DNA analysis on it, and they realized that it was a species of sloth that we've never actually found. So there's a new species of sloth described from DNA that was in pack rat midden.
That is so cool. I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% that sloth you didn't know existed, but thank God I did, because pack rats pissed all over my shit. And now you know that I am here, and isn't it a great new day?
That's how the song should have gone.
That's amazing. Yeah. Obviously. Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I look forward to meeting that sloth. I don't know what that means. That's cool. To only be known from your DNA. Yeah, that's cool.
DNA in a shit, but a pack rat decided
DNA
to
in a shit
incorporate.
in a piss.
They did describe it as if it was chosen by the pack rat. Like the pack rat was like, that poop? Yeah, you're coming with me. You're going to my house.
Okay, so season 1 was the sturge duckin'. Is this the
sloth Might be.
Like, how many layers of shit? This is amazing. Inside all of the garbage piss, I found poop. And it was great. It was from a new sloth. It was
from a special animal. It's like that Rattling Bog song from camp.
Yeah.
The DNA and the poop and the poop and the midden and the midden and the adobe.
And the adobe and the shame. Oh my gosh. I can't wait till we find, I can't wait to find out what weird shit we find in pack rat middens. And they're still alive. They're doing their thing. But what's creepy is they're doing it in your attic. Like, they love a good attic. And so what is going to stop them from making a nice little midden? We're going to find some, it's exciting.
Yeah.
The world is, there's so much potential.
So that's piss that became a rock. And then sometimes people
piss that became a rock.
Let's talk about rocks that form in piss.
Okay, that's right. We've already talked about rocks that preserves traces of piss.
Yeah.
Piss that turns to rock. Now we're talking about rocks that form. Okay, so this one. Okay, so the first part of mine.
That's the true turducken.
I don't know
this whole episode.
I think amber rat would probably be called a urolite, which is a urine stone, to describe, like, again, this the coke butt and all the other things we talked about. The impression fossils. Whereas now uroliths, which honestly mean the same fucking thing, everybody. So uroliths are bladder stones versus urolites are urine stones. So urolites are the same shit that are any type of stone that your body can produce, as some of us have experienced. I had a salivary stone.
Oh, that's
because I take meds, and it was very unpleasant. And then I had this dentist who was like, I think you have a salivary stone. And then I spent a lot of money getting that little motherfucker out. But I got like x-rays of my face, which was so cool. And I still have it somewhere, very small, maybe like 1 millimeter in diameter. So essentially that's what calculi in the scientific world, that's what we refer to that is. It's just solid objects that are frequently made of some type of calcium carbonate, calcium phosphate, something like that. And they naturally are formed in the bodies of animals. As I said, you can get them in your salivary system, which is rare. More people are used to them as kidney stones or, bladder stones or something like that. Gallstones as well. So it kind of depends on where they are. Sometimes they form a little differently. And depending on where they are, they get different names. So an enterolith is more that's in the intestinal wall that can happen. Whereas our uroliths are calculi of the urinary tract. Okay. Now, the oldest calculi, just generally, not necessarily urolith, is from the Jurassic. It's from some marine stuff. They hypothesize that it's some marine reptile like an ichthyosaur. And it's determined by kind of these concentric rings, these rounded objects that look like what we find in modern animals.
So everybody who has found a concretion and tried to tell me it was a dinosaur egg, you should be trying to tell me it's a dinosaur urolith.
Yes. Actually, a lot of these papers had to show that the stone wasn't an egg because the first hypothesis was that these structures were eggs. But because these things form over time, it does form like layers and different layers of like almost a shell. And even when you cut through them, they will spall in those layers as well. Okay. So with the oldest calculi is like the Jurassic. Now, the oldest claimed true urolith, so bladder stone, is claimed from the Oligocene, White River Formation of a archaic ungulate, which I think is code for Oreodont.
Yes.
It's fucking Oreodont.
Oreodont, urolith, yes. Urolith.
Yeah, essentially, I really wanted them to say Oreodont, but they didn't. It's fine. Because this paper is questionable in a lot of ways. So you can go ahead and scroll to my final picture, which is an image of A is the Oligocene bladder stone. And then B is contrasted when it cut in half. C is a human version. D is a hog. We're looking at a urolith, about 35 to 39 million year old urolith. And so A is the spheroid that they found in the White River Formation of Colorado. It is an unassociated calcium-containing spheroid, 3 centimeters in diameter, that was found in a massive gray mudstone in the Cedar Creek Formation. Okay, so maybe not the White River Formation. Maybe it's the White River Group, and that's the formation. I don't really know. My primates are all dead by then. Early Oligocene, 30 to 35 million years old. They talk about why it is because the layers tend to separate and fall off, which is similar to human and animal bladder stones. They compared it to a lot of stuff from the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology, which sounds both terrifying and really fucking cool. Like, very like, and so, yeah, you know, the reason that they really come back to it being a urolith is that, oh God, compared to inorganic concretions, this feature results in form from the decay of organic material that had once bonded in the layers of the urolith. So as you can tell from my voice, I'm not really fucking all that convinced that it's a urolith versus just a calculi. And so one of their features is like, again, they're like the external surface lacks evidence of linear structures, so it's not a bezoar like hair or plant fibers, but it is covered by small bumps, giving it a mammary appearance. Megan, look at part A. Would you ever use the word mammary to describe
your mammary glands look like this? Go to the doctor.
I will tell you that
post-breastfeeding they do.
Reminiscent of breastfeeding for sure, but that is not normal, and it was bad, and it took a ointment of both steroids, antibiotics, and antifungals to clear that shit up. So this is not
this is not healthy mammary tissue.
So and the lead author, I'm just like, okay, so who looks at that and is like, that looks like it's covered in nipples. Nipple rock. Therefore, it is like a urolith. So it has a composed of crystals that are oriented perpendicular to the surface of the mass, an arrangement characteristic of uroliths. When sectioned, it showed a hollow center with a small phosphatic pillar extending into the cavity. This is consistent with bladder stones, some of which have a fluid-filled center. So they compare it a lot to bladder stones, but I mean, I am happy that I don't know what all of these weird calculi can look like. Yeah. But it's just like, again, it just cool, sure. Literally, when you open with it's unassociated, you just lose me by many steps. Yeah. Many steps.
It's going to be hard to approve that it's something if it's unassociated, especially since like the White River Group has lots of weird concretions and nodules, and I don't know what would convince me that it was a urinary stone other than finding it in an animal.
Yes, but that's what I need. Or for some animal to have carved in and wearing it on a necklace as this is my urolith, which is what I'm planning on doing with my salivary stone. So, maybe. But no, I need to, like we talked about coprolites. Part of the reason that Mary Anning was convinced is she always found them consistently within the pelvic and abdominal region of these ichthyosaurs. Yeah. So I'm like, you need to show me some oreodonts that have died screaming in pain, rigor mortis style, from their kidney stones that they're trying to pass. By the way, they kept mentioning staghorn calculi, which is the worst sounding of the kidney stones. It's a kidney stone that forms, like if you take a cross section of a kidney and you know how it kind of looks like cauliflower, like a little tree in there. Well, the stone itself forms in that shape, and you have to pass or have it surgically removed because you have like cauliflower stones in your kidneys. I've been on a fucking journey today of ostrich pee, crocodile pee, staghorn calculi. Do I have staghorn calculi? How do I avoid ever getting staghorn calculi? And then, Megan, and then the internet told me that there is a type of turtle that can pee through its mouth. And I just like literally died. Yes. We might have to like dedicate a whole bonus episode because we don't really have time, or maybe this will be, an excess. But the Chinese soft-shelled turtle has been shown and published to urinate through its mouth. And you know the classic way of studying this. They put a bunch of them into a tank. They covered up their butts and they were able to measure exactly how much uric acid was coming out of their assholes. And it was like nothing compared to the concentration of uric acid in the whole tank.
Okay.
And they have these extra, as they're described, like mouth fingers to help them expand the surface area of receptors for oxygen and carbon dioxide passage so that they can breathe better underwater. And part of the benefits of this is that they can also piss through their mouth.
So we've gone from piss sniffers to piss spitters in this episode?
Yeah, piss spitters. Like they have this really weird quote in the article where they're like, and then we put them in front of a bucket of water in which they plunge their heads in for 20 to 100 minutes. And afterwards, there was a high concentration of uric acid in the bucket.
What the fuck? Why?
So they can like fully breathe underwater. They've got weird mouth fingers and they can pee through their fucking mouths.
I don't understand what in the Pokemon evolution decided that was going to be something like that doesn't make why? Why do you want to do that? Why is it inadequate to piss through the regular hole?
That's boring, Megan. God.
From God's plan of having you piss
apparently a lot of okay, now we're invoking God. Wow. Where the fuck am I? But why not? Life is boring. Okay, let me get. When he placed a bucket of water in front of them, the turtles plunged their head in from between 20 to 100 minutes. They held their water in the mouth for a while, then spat it out, at which the urea concentration in the water increased. Yeah, so they can excrete urea through their mouth, though there are other animals like some fish and some fish can excrete it through their gills. Some amphibians and lungfish do it through their skin.
Why?
And they think it might have helped them deal with brackish water.
How?
To excrete urea through their cloaca via their kidneys, the turtles would need to drink a lot of water to flush it through. That would mean taking in a lot of salt, which would be difficult to get rid of. Rather than drinking the brackish water, the turtles' habits allow them to simply rinse their mouths with it.
Oh.
I don't.
Okay. I mean, that feels like a solid fucked up reason, but it is a reason.
The lead author thinks turtles only started breathing underwater to make it easier to urinate through their mouths. Like there was a consciousness. There's like they were all like, this year we're going to do it. This year is our year.
You know, I need to dedicate more time to pissing through my mouth so that I can, and you know, while I'm down here, why don't I breathe through my ass?
Yeah, and why don't I breathe through my butthole and just do nothing right? Yes. So I only scratched the surface because I quite literally discovered this in the 11th hour, but apparently there's something to be said for maybe we just, need to do a whole thing on animals that do things through unexpected holes. I don't know. I need to read the paper in depth. I've only skimmed. So.
I can't believe
or
it.
just one on why turtles are fucking
forever.
Epic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then this like young child tugs at me and cries a lot and I get distracted.
The only reason you're not dedicating full time to reading about soft-shelled turtle.
It's true.
Mouth kissing.
It's true. This is why the only reason I haven't flown to China to catch me some soft-shelled turtles to watch them piss out their mouths, which still does not really make sense to me. So piss, man, it's all around us. Thank you for listening. If you liked the podcast, be sure to rate and review us on your listening platform of choice. We really, really, really appreciate it.
If you'd like to hear more and support the show, you can follow us on Patreon for some exclusive bits or on our various social media platforms. You can follow Amy on Instagram at Mary Anning's Revenge.
And Megan on Instagram and TikTok as GeoPedalFabric, or both of us at Weird and Dead on Instagram and TikTok. Our theme song is Unlock Me by Praz Canal. Cover art was provided by Chris Spencer and the hosts.
And this has been hosted and researched by us, Amy Atwater and Megan Weatherall. Thank you for listening. I'm going to have to sit with that knowledge for a long time to really incorporate that one.
I'll send you the paper.
I knew all the gross things that turtles could do, and I haven't even scratched the